guys, welcome back to the Pineapple Party Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Pineapple Party Podcast. My name is Jensen and I am your host. Today we have a very, very special guest, Metta Devi. She has just graduated from Monash University, taking the Bachelor's of Medical Bioscience. Is that correct?
Yes.
And now you're doing your Master's in Nottingham Uni. So yeah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, can you tell us, what drew you to... Well, first of all, what is your background? Where are you from? What drew you to studying in university? Were you always drawn to... I mean, I don't know any teenagers that's like, I want to do medical bioscience, but were you always interested in doing medical bioscience? Yeah, tell us about, a bit about yourself.
Okay, so really tiny bit detail about myself. So I'm currently 21 years old. I I'm from Indonesia. And once I finish high school, I immediately go to uni. That's why currently I'm already doing my master's at 21. So about studying, right? It might be weird, but my hobby is studying because I find it comforting to just relax. I don't like rush studying, last minute studying. So I prefer to just take my time and study for like 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day. So I enjoy it. So since I've always liked studying, ever since high school, I knew I want to continue studying in uni, especially about human health that I'm actually so passionate about since junior high school, I think, because of
Oh, wow.
movies, to be honest.
Because of movies?
Yeah.
Oh, like Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, this kind of
Okay.
movie.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Initially, I was into neuroscience because of this Japanese TV series called Mr. Brain. It was released in 2009, I think.
All right.
But neuroscience wasn't such a big field back then when I was in junior high school. So I figured that the job prospects might not be as bright as medical bioscience. So that's why I picked this one.
You made the right choice. um, wow. Okay, that's so interesting though. So for you, like, you really like to study because you don't have to worry or stress about. Oh my God! Like tomorrow's the exam. I have a whole book to cram,
Mm.
and it's just the fact that you don't have to procrastinate means that you're taking a lot of stress off your shoulders, right?
Yeah, true. And
Yeah.
also more info. Instead of medical bioscience, I was honestly more into pharmaceutical science by the time I graduated high school. So I applied to 5 universities in Ireland, Malaysia, and Australia, and 4 out of 5 was for pharmaceutical, not medical bioscience. Then I was already registered as a student until 2 months before my flight to Ireland. Mind you,
Oh
I
wow.
graduated high school in 2020 during COVID time, right?
Right.
The embassy didn't allow parents to accompany the students to reduce the number of travelers. And so
Right.
my parents, since they couldn't let go of me, I just turned 18 and I've never lived alone before.
Yeah.
So they told me to just go get my first year tuition fee refunded and reactivate my offer in Monash, Malaysia for medical bioscience, which
Ah. Okay.
the closest to pharmaceutical science back then, although it's currently already available in Monash, Malaysia because of the facilities.
Right.
So at my plan A, most of my cousins graduated from here as well. So yeah, I
Oh
think
wow. Okay, that's very interesting though. So you were initially planning on going to Ireland,
yeah,
um, and of course, I mean, I'm guessing that we do have very protective parents here in Asia, and I'm guessing Ireland is not exactly the safest and the most calm, place to
yeah,
be, right? Yeah. Okay, that's very interesting. But going back to how you approach studying, and I think you talk about how it's very calming to you to not have to rush everything.
mm,
I really wish I had your mindset because for my IGCSE exams, I did the double science award. So it's you take biology, physics, chemistry, but they give you two grades instead of just one.
yeah,
And I remember 2 days before my exam, I realized I had just completed my biology, but my chemistry and physics I have not touched yet. So at that point, I became Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible, and I was counting down like each hour. I was delegating each hour to like each topic.
Nice
So I
to
counted down like perfectly. 48 hours meant that I could cover like 75 to 80% of the concepts. Like, with chemistry, you're talking about maybe like moles. With physics, you're talking about momentum, that kind of stuff. So each individual topic was assigned to an hour. But yeah, it is genuinely impressive that, you really delegate time early on instead of rushing. Um, would you say you have an inspiration or someone that kind of taught you, hey, maybe don't put everything till last minute. Maybe start from the beginning so that you never have to rush. Who would you say inspired you to study like that, or is it always just been, I don't want to rush. I want to take it slow, so I study always.
actually, instead of inspiration, it's more like I feel bad for my family, the people around me, because when I'm rushing, back then I was the kind of someone who rushed as well. But then, like, I had to, like, skip dinner with my family, skip everything. I can't really like talk to them face to face. Like, I had to do something else while doing that,
Yeah.
and I'm so bad doing it that
Yeah.
I feel like I have to. I knew I had to do something to fix
Yeah.
this. I gotta like not rush so I can like focus my time more with my family and like people around me as well.
Right. Okay. So in other words, I did not care at all. um,
Happens to a
no,
lot.
but that's amazing though. And you said that you're from Indonesia, studying in Malaysia. As an international student, well, what about Malaysia drew you to come here? I know you said it wasn't your plan A. You were originally supposed to go to Ireland, but
Yeah.
then why was Malaysia the second choice?
Okay, so I'm Indonesian, so settling for the first time in another country, I think it will help if there's less culture shock.
Yeah, for sure.
We're quite similar, and I won't have any language barrier problems because both Bahasa Indonesia and Bahasa Malaysia are rooted from the same language, Melayu, right?
Yeah. Yes.
My hometown is Jakarta. Malaysia is just 2 hours away, so if anything happens, just in case, it's easy for me to just fly back and visit
Yeah.
my family. And although these two countries are nearby, I think Malaysia is more of a multicultural nation, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, more diverse people here and learn more and explore new opportunities that I wouldn't have even discovered in Indonesia. That's why.
Right. Okay, so it's like it's the home away from home basically for you.
Yes.
It's like you can easily travel back, but it's still quite a unique experience or something like that.
Yes.
Mm. Okay. Well, would you say Indonesian food is better than Malaysian food though?
Um, I would say I have never craved nasi lemak, contrary
Okay. Okay.
I have
That's
crave
all
for.
good.
I usually crave my Indonesian food back home.
Mm. Ayam penyet is really good. I'm
I,
such a big fan.
if you like spicy, I think there's a restaurant in Sunway Pyramid. It's called Ole Ole Bali. They also sell this kind of ayam penyet, but with sambal that tastes most similar to Indonesian sambal.
Oh, okay. I think I've
Yeah,
passed by it. I'm gonna check it out
yeah.
for sure. Thank you. Thank you. That's amazing. Um, well, yeah, and then continuing this topic of how you had to travel here. It's the first time you've left your country, basically. What what are some of the challenges that you had to face as an international student coming to a foreign country, right?
Okay, there are a lot of like little things that actually bothers me in the first place because when settling, like I've never actually properly did my laundry myself, It's like I had to learn how to bleach.
Right. Okay. Baby steps.
Etc. Like cleaning by myself, taking the time to cook and actually wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Instead of just, usually in my family we take turns. If someone cooks, the others will clean the dishes and etc.
Yes.
So, but here I have to do everything alone until the point that I prefer to just go out and buy something to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
the and but the most challenging thing I face is the homesickness, honestly. I still remember crying while video calling my parents during my first day settling here because like they don't have nothing, like they don't
Yeah.
even have, like hand soap, etc. But I cannot go out because my resident access card is not out yet.
Oh no.
So, and there are like a few problems that I had to tackle and just wait sometimes.
Right.
So yeah, having to settle is like, you kind of be homesick, like,
Yeah.
because in your home. Yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly relate to that because I've spent most of my life in Qatar. So
Mm.
Malaysia sometimes still feel like a foreign country to me sometimes. And I think seeing how some people react to me when I speak with my accent, they're like, "Oh, you're like a westerner or you're an international student." So for
There-
me, it doesn't feel like home, and I do definitely feel homesick because my family is not really in Malaysia as well. They live overseas, and I only see them over the holidays, which I'm sure might be the same thing for you as well. So I
Mm.
remember, yeah, I remember feeling really homesick, and then it's like, oh my god, like it's not my brother's turn to wash the dishes. I have to wash the dishes. You know, I have to cook. I have to, do the washing. I have to sweep the floors. Yeah, it's not easy at all. No. Well, then, what would you say is the most or one of the really fun things about being independent and really just staying by yourself?
Probably because I have strict parents. Okay, okay. To this disclaimer, I don't go to clubs at all. But I figured that whenever I want to go out with my friend, I don't really have to ask for permission anymore. Just going out for lunch, I can just go. Like,
Right.
yeah, like they don't even know. My friend had like a birthday party, and like we decided to surprise her as well to Cameron Highlands,
Oh
and I just
wow.
2 days 1 night trip, then to Penang for 1 week. Like I didn't have permission because it was, like I knew they was going to say no. But yeah, I told them once I arrived there though.
Okay, that's good. You kept them and you kept them updated.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do feel a bit the same way as well now. Like I'll just let them know, hey, I'm traveling here, traveling there. But of
Yeah.
course I'm gonna be safe and I'll keep you guys updated. I'll call you guys once I'm there. So yeah, it's just, it's definitely a lot more liberating and you get more freedom. Um
Yeah. Just go whenever you like.
yeah. And you don't have to ask them, like you don't have to wait for the decision.
Yeah, yeah. And like when you ask your mom, then I just go ask your dad, just
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Um well then moving back, let's move back to medical bioscience. Uh we've talked about how that is what you've done for your undergraduate off camera. And if you can, I am obviously not a medical bioscience student. I do a very basic business marketing degree.
that's amazing.
It's all right. It's all right. Can you break down your course? Can you break down the course of medical bioscience to a normal student who might not know what it is? And, what would you say are some of the most important concepts?
Medical bioscience, I think it's quite a specialized course that study about human health. Like the foundation in the first year, you will study about the foundation of science itself, kind of repeating your A levels, the chemistry, biology, the basics, and then moving on to second year, none of them seem familiar to what you have studied. All of a sudden you have this 25 chapters of reading in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Like molecular biology, recombinant DNA technology. Basically, there are different sections. Let's talk about the genomics, for example. You have to kind of customize how do you create vaccines using the recombinant DNA technology. And then you can also do, moving on to transcriptomics, it's like RNA. It's how you actually study the expression. How do you differentiate for example, like cells that have antimicrobial resistance and not
Right.
resistant? What's the difference between them? You got to figure out from the RNA sequencing. And then proteomics, like the proteins in a human body, metabolites. ions and like just human. After the basics, you move on to the bigger picture, human pathology in your third year. I would
Yeah.
say the most useful stuff are in the third year because
Right.
you see the whole thing. Like if someone's hurting in this part, which muscle is that?
Right.
How do you do to cure that? And the practice, scientific practice on communications in the lab, in the hospitals. So you get to learn about how to be useful in the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right. So it's kind of like you start by zooming into RNA and DNA and
the smallest
just
part.
yeah, just based on my really bad A level grades from like many years ago, they essentially are the codes, they're genetic coding, right? Like genetic information.
Yes.
So and
So
then sorry, go ahead.
yeah, so it's the genetic material. You study the smallest part first. You might not get the overall big picture, like what is this for? But after you learn the basics and the molecule size, you can zoom out and kind of
Right.
like, oh, this is for this. Yeah.
Right, like you see the whole picture from RNA to cells to then actual humans ourselves basically.
Mm-mm.
Right. And then talk to me about the difference between medical bioscience and medicine because I think it's a very common misconception that it's like, oh, is that just medicine? You're studying about diseases, you're studying about physiology. So what
Yeah.
are the differences between the two subjects?
Yeah. So we kind of study about and similar things as well. But even the medicine degree, Doctor of Medicine, started from Bachelor of Medical Science. It's even the
Right.
title is similar, but their duration is in total is 5 years. Ours is like 3 years, like a regular degree. So it's shorter and like half the price as well in
That's the
general.
best part.
Yes, it's half the
Yeah.
price. And then you study like quite similar things, but you're more focused in the laboratory. Although you have anatomy and physiology as well, you also touch like uh, bodies, like
Yep.
then like to study the organs. But then I feel like the doctors studied more about the how can the drug interactions can actually affect this person, like this certain patient,
Right.
just like in pharmacy as well. And I think they know more about that than us, since they study for longer as well. And medical bioscience, right? The most common misconception is that because they thought we're doctors. They thought we can give diagnosis even though we're not qualified to do that.
Right.
In my family, whenever someone asks me like, "Oh, which major are you taking, Meta?" Oh, I'm taking medical bioscience. Oh, so you're going to be a doctor? Oh, basically, when you go to the hospital, you're talking to the doctors, right? But then the doctors might call a phlebotomist to take your blood sample, and this blood sample will go to us. The roles are like medical laboratory scientist or technician, and we will process your sample, do some the clinical testing inside the laboratory, generate the lab report, and give this to the doctor. Maybe
Right.
we her to like help inspect, oh, because we think like this person might have this and this, but then the doctor will be the one deciding which medicine they should take, etc.
So so you are more behind the scenes as
Yes.
support, but you're also more focused on medical research than actually diagnosing patients or giving them the right medication, that kind of situation.
We study about that as well, but not as deep as the doctor, obviously. But then in the lab, sometimes if the doctors want to, for example, prescribe tacrolimus, like a kind of medicine to a patient, then we kind of have to determine the dose using the patient's blood. So
Oh,
we
right.
take tacrolimus as well, the medicine, and we determine the dose that will suit the patient. Like the best dose for them as well. So we kind of test the drug dose, and then we can also give them advices on like what kind of drugs this person can take. But then in the end, the decision will come down to the doctor's decision again. Yeah.
Okay, so essentially it's research, but you're also kind of supporting doctors in making medical decisions.
Yes,
Okay,
because
that's very interesting.
lab results. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, are there any more? Are there any other misconceptions that you always have to deal with? You know, you talk about how your family members are. Oh, so you're a doctor? Well, yes and no, kinda. You know.
I think that's the biggest one. I think because I think most of my friends, we had this talk with my undergrad friends as well with the same major, and all of them like experienced the same thing. It's quite similar. Like even their family is like, "Oh, so you're going to be the doctor?" And no, I'm more like the scientist. Oh, scientist. So what do you do? You get vaccines too sometimes,
Yeah.
COVID. And it's more understandable because COVID was there. So
Yeah.
this is the positive thing that COVID bring. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I was telling my mom that I have a podcast interview coming up because, I'm very lucky and very grateful to have very supportive parents. So I keep them quite up to date. Like, oh, I'm interviewing, a student who's currently doing her master's in the sciences, correct?
Yeah, my master's in biotechnology right now.
Yeah, and I was telling her that you did a undergrad in medical bioscience, and then she said the same thing as well. She's like, oh, like, you're interviewing a future doctor. Well, maybe. I'm not too sure yet, but we will find out. Yeah. Well, talk to me about your favorite topic within medical bioscience.
Um, if it's in Monash, there's a lot of things that can influence our favorite unit.
Yeah.
Um, One of them is actually pathology. I like it the most because that's when we give, like possible diagnosis and what can we do to treat the person. And I think it's the most fun part because it's the most useful part. I think
Yeah.
the pathology,
Practical.
and then the unit that I think is very useful but might not be the greatest experience is physiology. Because honestly, the worksheet maybe it was the unit probably, but
Right.
sometimes uh, these worksheets keep you up to 3 a.m. You don't sleep because of this worksheet and you start to write bullshit. I'm like, at 7 a.m. when you wake up, wait, why did I write this? And you have to like redo it.
Right. So it's the one that's like the
Stressful.
longest process, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moreover, you take like two of those units, It's like it's
Oh
for the,
wow.
yeah. Because it's like the first version, the second version.
Oh, so it's under physiology, but they split it into two different units.
Yeah, principles of physiology. First, the second.
And are you taking them in the same semester or one after the other?
One after the other.
Oh wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
you would think, oh, I'm finally free, and then boom, second part
Yeah, with
comes
different
in.
organs. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, we have to linger a little bit on your not so favorite topic.
Oh my God.
Can you tell me one very interesting thing? I know you might have found it boring or very arduous or very tough, as a unit. But can you tell me one very interesting thing about human physiology?
It's really hard to pick one.
Or tell me multiple, then the more the merrier.
Human physiology.
Like, because I think, I'm not sure if it's a myth or a fact, but I've always heard a lot of people say that the human appendix is not useful at all.
It's actually just a house for your colon bacteria,
Okay.
and without it, you can still survive. Some people say that it was just, you know, a kind of remnants from human evolution because back then it was used, and sometimes after over time it's not used as frequent as anymore, so they started to reduce in size. But I think this is true to and applicable to other parts of our body as well. If you're not using a certain body part for a long time, it will naturally reduce the function and adapt. So for example, let's say you're not using your left hand, it will be hard for you to use your left hand when you need it later, because you feel like maybe it's like your muscle memory. Even sometimes if you're not doing something for consistently anymore, it started to reduce its function. Maybe
Right.
you don't exercise, you start to lose muscle, so your body just adapt to your lifestyle. So
Oh
it's
wow.
just dependence. If we're not using something, it will reduce in function as well. So it's
Right.
really important. It connects to a lot of our daily lifestyle as well.
Yeah. So is it because was the appendix a lot more useful back then because I'm guessing people back then had not to say harsher, but I'm like our ancestors would have hunted, right? Would have eaten wild berries or wild plants and eaten wild animals. So was is there a link between the diet between our past diet and the importance of the appendix?
Mm, Probably. I haven't really like learned about this part, the appendix in the past. But regarding the past diet, you know how in human evolution, this is I think this is the topic or second week in the degree.
Okay.
Sagittal crust here. So basically, because in our past diet, as you said, we ate like a lot of like maybe wild animals sometimes, and we need stronger jaw. Meanwhile, our like food right now is like much softer and processed, so we don't really have require that much strength anymore to grab our food to
Right.
munch it down. So our mandible is not as strong. It's not as big as before because previously it was so big that it has to be like supported by the sagittal crest, So it's connected until here. But over time, this part reduces as our mandible gets, like weaker. So that's part of human evolution, I think, based on our diet, past diet, and now.
Oh wow. Okay. So back then people had wider jawlines basically.
It's like, yeah, it's bigger. It's protruding, I would say, closely resembling apes, the greater apes.
Right. And now we have supermodels with like, thin,
Shake face.
pointy. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Okay, that's very interesting. And well, to correct me if I'm wrong, because I really have a very shallow understanding of, medicine or medical bioscience, but physiology concerns, does it only concern our internal organs or does it also include all body parts?
I think our internal organs, including our skin as well.
Right.
So it's more of the insides usually.
Okay. Wow, okay. Um, did you guys study about bone structure? Did you guys study about the joints, stuff like that?
Yeah, we did. But it was in other unit as well, I think. It was in
Ah,
path.
right. Oh, it was
So
in pathology.
yeah, for like the bone, the abnormalities.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. Well,
Uh,
can you take us on I think we spoke a little bit about how you were doing internships and some of them included lab work, if I'm not mistaken.
all of them.
Oh, well, okay, all of them did. Right.
He was in the lab.
In that case, in that case, can you please take us on a lab tour? I want you to tell us about, what lab instruments um, are really stand out to you. What is a typical lab session or lab day like?
Oh, okay. So in campus, usually it takes us around 3 hours lab. Meanwhile, it varies between other campus because currently in my current campus, it's like 6 hours lab with lunch included. So it's like a longer session. You just get ready with your protocol, read like your lab protocol before you start the session, and then
Right.
just do whatever's listed there according to the protocol. Take turns with your friends, or just get your own set and like do it yourself. And so I think it's really a fun one. Um, for the one in hospital though, it's quite different because you don't have any protocol in your heads ready. You have to know it. Uh, you know, outside your head. I would say.
Like
So you
memorize it?
Yeah, so you gotta like take notes when your supervisor like tells you which one to do first and what to do there,
Oh
how to
wow.
mess up, you know. Take take notes of everything. It's like this thing. So for my internship, because it was in Prince Court Medical Center under Pantai Premier Pathology, we're in the lab. So, like all five interns are separated into different departments. The lab was so wide, so we take turns. I think my first week was in the sample reception area. It was 1 year ago, so I might not remember.
No worries.
So, in the sample reception area, we received from like various sources from the doctors in after surgeries, etc. And we get the samples in the form of tubes or maybe uh, I would say bottles or like containers, bigger
Right.
containers of organs. So we just receive it, confirm if the patient name is correct, you know, and then we give them the kind of receipt to them, and then we enter it to our database as well, the internal database for the whole lab. We say that it's already in the sample reception area. If the blood tubes needs to be centrifuge, then we centrifuge it first before we distribute it. Otherwise, we just distribute the rest to the corresponding department.
Right.
And this area, I think, was quite busy in the morning, but then after lunchtime, there are less samples. We often receive samples from other labs as well, like other big hospitals. Sometimes they send it to us, and we have to do it because
Right.
we the service, yeah. And then moving on to like other labs, we just do the corresponding task in each lab. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
microbiology lab, we culture, incubate, examine, and then we also do the. Um,
Well, sorry to stop you there, but initially what you did first is it was kind of like a distribution center, right? You said you received samples from different patients, and you put it. Is it? Are you putting all the samples into the centrifuge, or is it just some? And if
oh,
so,
it's
like, yeah, if so, which ones do you choose to put in the centrifuge?
Okay, so basically there are different blood tubes with different cap color,
Mm-hmm.
and each cap color represents the kind of anticoagulant, like the blood anticoagulant contained inside when before they get the blood inside the tubes. So certain ones have to be centrifuged first for testing.
Right.
Um, the other ones not really. For example, sometimes the bigger tubes you can just like pass it on, but the green tubes, the small tubes, you have to centrifuge it first. I think it's quite, there's a table for it.
Yeah.
This is like, if it needs to be centrifuge, sometimes a one simple color, but if the test doesn't require you to do this test, you don't have to, so it's
I
like
understand.
yeah, it's a kindly table.
What does centrifuging it do though? Because I know all I know is it's like it spins in a circle, right?
Yeah, after it spins, actually the bigger particles or the heavier ones,
Mm-hmm.
heavier particles will go down to the bottom. So
Right.
you maybe either different color or just you want to collect something in the supernatant, the top part. So that's what you do.
Oh, okay, okay, I see. All right, and then you talked about how some needed to be centrifuge, some doesn't. The ones that don't, they just get passed on to where they need to go. And yeah, can you continue talking to me about what is next in this, your lab work in this during your internship?
Okay, so Um, I wouldn't talk in like the arrangement, but we move on to the histopathology lab where we actually examine the tissue. Cut the tissue and then just stain it and examine it. Sometimes in histopathology, we also do it with organs. Because or cancers. So
Oh
in
wow.
real, it's on our table with the patient number. We have to take picture just in case the people wants to see the document, the report. So we just take picture of it. Otherwise, you cannot take picture in the lab. But
Right.
then after that, we just slice it, put it on a slide stain, and see what's inside. If it has any potential to be cancer cells or not, or if it already has cancers, like you can feel it
Bad
under
news. Yeah.
So yeah, then you just keep it. There's a really interesting story about this, but should I talk about this now or later? Because yeah.
I mean, yeah, you can share if only if you're comfortable.
Okay, I'll share it after I go through
Sure,
everything.
sounds good.
So in histopathology, I think it's the most fun one because you get to like play with like the slides, all the slides. Although sometimes it hurts your hands because you take care of the slides in the clean area without your gloves. So you have to, in the computer area, you have to like arrange the slides, and it
Right.
might here. And then we move on to the cytology department. In cytology department, we observe more about it's also slide staining, but it's not sliced. It's like you stated, so it's not as even as the other one. So you cannot really put something to cover like really evenly, because it's a bit
Yep. It's not
surface.
flat, basically.
Yeah, it's not smooth because you just put it there, unlike the other one where you slice it. So yeah, it's quite difficult to stain in cytology. And the putting the cover slip on with silene, and then. mm in cytology, I noticed that in most hospitals, it's really secluded because there's this rule that cytology lab needs to be in a quiet place, so the person can decide. My supervisor can decide whether this is, you can give the diagnosis, etc.
Oh
Okay,
wow. Okay.
sorry to stop here. I need to charge my laptop.
No worries.
Hold on.
We get a shift in location, new environment.
Okay, I'm just gonna. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Whichever
All
you're comfortable with, Meta.
all right then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yep.
Moving on to microbiology, we also had to like culture, as I've said before. We take specimens. This one we get like sputums, um, like the specimens that we can test. Like COVID tests usually come here, or sometimes the influenza, especially
Wow.
influenza
Okay.
is under the Department of Microbiology, and they also have a separate room for COVID tests because it's virus. And then we also have hematology. Hematology is when you test the blood test.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, if you have medical checkup, the lab report will show you the exact part, like hematology part.
Yes.
Like there would be someone like, okay, maybe your eosinophil is low. Like, oh, you have
Vitamin D deficiency, that kind of stuff.
oh,
Yeah.
and then like some your blood count probably. And then if someone got malaria, and this is where you can see their in this department, like it's taken care of in this department. And then fluid and excretion is basically for urine and feces and sometimes spinal fluid as well.
They
Then
have they have a spinal fluid test.
yeah, because but it's so rare.
Right. Yeah. It's so rare. I've never heard of it before.
Spinal
Um,
fluid.
I'm sorry to stop you there, but can you tell us about how they extract it? Is it straight needle into the spine?
Oh, this is not from this department, but I was shadowing the hematologist in when I was in the hematology department.
Right.
So basically, we followed our supervisor to the room where the patient got to. We need to take the sample from his bone marrow, and see whether this person still produces reticulocytes or the young form, the immature form of your red blood cells. You know,
Right.
this person can still produce it. So we have to like put the patient in a recovery position. It's like sideways,
Yep.
anesthesia them, and a nurse will hold him, like the anesthesiologist will hold. The doctor will you have this cover, the
Yes.
usual green cover, but it has a hole on your backside, the spinal cord. I would say it's like a cork. When you open champagne, there's a
Yep.
cork.
Yep.
The one that I saw, maybe they used that one, but it's like the doctor put it like this inside the spinal cord until the patient is like, it
Oh
jumps on
wow.
person is already anesthetized, and then he uses a really big syringe to extract everything, and when he extracts the bone marrow, you can see the white parts, the your bone fragments coming out from the mixing with the blood as well. So you can hear like the sounds like you know.
I don't want to hear those sounds.
Yeah. Once you get it, then we have to go do the blood smears like fresh,
Yeah.
like 20 of them. And then as an intern, I was just there to make sure the blood doesn't coagulate by just shaking all the bottles. Because we can, although we use EDTA bottles, we don't have EDTA inside for the fresh the bone marrow samples, just so we can see it better. So
Right.
yeah, that's interesting. Spinal cord.
Wow.
The syringe is bigger and you have to be anesthetized before the blood is taken. It's so painful.
Yeah, I can't imagine like getting a needle pierced into your spinal cord must be on another level.
Oh my god. And the next one is blood bank. This is basically where you get your, the blood bags. The doctors might order it here if they feel like you need it. Then
Yeah.
we send it, test your blood as well, like first test, second test, and then to just to confirm your blood type. We don't want any transfusion problems.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then the biochemistry department, like last but not least, it has like two big analyzers. So we do like all the tests in your medical checkup test. They will also list down the biochemistry department. The all
Right.
the your glucose levels. We test it here. So yeah, that's the last one.
Oh, so the blood is done in the hematology department, but then everything else is done in that final department that you spoke about.
Um, Basically, when they take your blood, and there, remember when I said that there are different color tubes, and with
Yes.
so if it's purple, for in the case of Prince Court, purple goes to hematology department for test. And from the same patient, you can also have collect multiple tubes. Like usually the cup with yellow or red is the clot activators, just gel. They can go to the biochemistry department. So we use different one. And for glucose, we use fluoride tube, the one with gray cap. It's also from the biochem department. And
Right.
so you can get like multiple samples,
Yeah.
and those will be distributed to different departments all
So
at once.
if they need to be tested in different departments, then they will have multiple tubes to be sent to different departments at the same time for the same
Yeah.
patient.
Yes.
Wow.
That's why we need to confirm the name in the sample reception area. Because what if, sometimes I receive like a pack, like it's in a single pack, it's supposed to be for one patient only, but then
Right.
they have different names. So we had to reject the sample and the person
Right.
had to, but this is, this is quite a rare occasion. So we don't usually do this mistake. So yeah, depends on the that's why the sample reception area is important, because you don't want someone else's results for you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if that does happen, does the patient have to redo the whole test, or is it just like this person was here, let's just send it back there, kind of
Ah,
situation?
and they catch it in the sample reception area before distribution, so we can just either let the confirm with them which one is true, or just if we really cannot figure out, rather than guesswork, we'd rather like take the patient's blood again, but usually it will result in lower patient satisfaction, but
Yeah, I no doubt. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, then before we talk about your internship experience, I think you've covered a part of it for sure.
Yes, so most of it.
Oh wow, okay, there you go. But before we finish up on the talk about internships, what is the schedule looking like for your lab sessions? Because you spoke about how now that you're in Nottingham University doing your masters, it's a 6 hour session with lunch in between. But
Mm.
how many days per week are you in the lab? How many hours are you usually in the lab? And how is your scheduling like? Are your experiments self-conducted? Can you go in whenever you want? Or is it like a strict bracket? You can only come in from 8 to 4, for example.
Okay, so there is a difference between Monash and Nottingham for this. In Monash, okay, the similarities first. Both of them have, um, depends on the unit that you take that semester. If you take three lab units, you will have 3 lab classes that week, including 3 workshop classes for each of the units. So like 2 classes per week. Meanwhile, in Nottingham, if it's a lab unit, it's just a lab unit. You don't have like extra session, but you have to like come to the supervisor if you have any question. So it's more maybe because it's master's degree, they don't really spoon fed you with the workshops anymore. You still have classes, but you have to come for them yourself because they're not going to break down everything in detail. You still gotta like search it up yourself, and find out what you're lacking. And our exams are not in the textbook. Even if you cheat, you cannot cheat at all because they're going to ask some things that only those who read all the additional readings articles can answer, this kind. So in Monash for the labs, it's 3 hours and 3 times a week. So we can say like 9 hours per week. But then you have to do the lab report for each week.
Wow. So if
So
you're doing 3 lab units, that's 3 lab reports.
3 lab reports per week, and one lab report can be like 8 to 10 pages in total. Yeah, because you have to start with the introduction. Sometimes, if they're kind, they just want you to put the results and discussion. If they're kind, but
Right.
more often than not,
They're not kind.
yeah, but it's fine because you can do the introduction before the lab session. You don't have to wait. And then, meanwhile, in Nottingham, the practicals are not. It's weekly and like 3 times a week as well. But it builds up to one big project. So, for example, they give you a sample in the first week. And this is a soil sample. Find out if this can be used for fertilizers. You know,
Right.
so you just use that sample. You have to reculture it first to use next week because you're going to continue other tasks next week using the same sample, right? And after 4 weeks, then you create one lab report, one big lab report.
Oh, right. I see.
Yes. So instead of just submitting on Moodle, you have to like create a poster instead, the lab report in a poster and present to them. What do you think you identify the soil sample as?
So it's always more of like an assignment where they give you like a longer period of time to go prepare this multi-step process, and then at the end, summarize your findings, package it in a way that's presentable, and then present to, I'm guessing, your lecturers or people that will mark your grades.
Yeah, that's how it goes in Nottingham. In Monash, it's like weekly lab report submitting to Moodle, and like all of them are graded. So yeah, in like 3 weeks, 9 lab reports. In Nottingham, 3 weeks, 3 lab reports probably.
Wow.
But that's it.
Wow. Well, which do you prefer in that case?
I think the second one because it has stories. Because
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas I think in Monash it would be a lot more hectic. Because I have friends that study sciences. I'm not the most sure if it's medical bioscience, but I'm sure there are many other units or subjects that require lab reports to be submitted as well. And every time I talk to them, it's always lab reports. Hey man, how are you doing? Lab reports.
yeah,
You
lab
know,
report.
it's always just lab reports. So, wow, to hear 3 lab reports every single week, it must have been incredibly hectic for you as well.
But like at the later weeks, I think sometimes they stop with the lab already at like week 9 or week 10, and they just focus on revision. So I think that's like
A
you
bit of
know
a breath of fresh air.
yes.
Yeah, you get to relax a little bit, but then you have exams right after, right?
Yeah, revision. That's why they
Yeah,
put it.
yeah. Wow, that's honestly impressive. Just how much studying and how much work you guys have to do, um, just even within one study week.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you talked about how medical bioscience includes the study of pathology as well. Can you first describe to us what is pathology? And yeah, let's start with that.
Basically, it's the study of human diseases, the diseases in general as well. So usually, we infer diagnosis from the symptoms that the patient told us, but there's a special case except for diabetic patients at complication stage because you cannot trust when they tell them your symptoms. For example, they don't feel any heart pain, so you just okay, then it's not
Right.
it's to do with your heart. But the problem is diabetic patients at a later stage, even if they have chest pain, they can't feel it anymore. So you can't really trust their review on their own body because they might have it, the symptom, but So yeah,
They're not aware.
yeah, they're not aware of it. So in most cases, pathology class is just like get the symptoms and infer like what kind of diseases is like that's like pathology for the organisms. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then obviously, okay, before we move on to COVID-19, because that is the talk of the town, well, talk of the world, really,
Yeah.
um, does pathology include parasites?
Yeah.
So, all forms of diseases from parasites to bacteria to viruses.
Yeah, because you can see sometimes they actually like give you a screenshot of like someone's skin, and like underneath is like a pattern of parasite. What kind of parasite that is? You gotta. They usually have a table for this. Usually it's like this one at this stage, or this one, but at this stage. How did they acquire it? Like when they eat something infected,
Yeah.
So-
I do not want to be in that class, trust me. It freaks me out. Because I've seen, like, I know, like, flatworms, ringworms, all those kinds of worms, right? Every time I see a picture of it on Google or whatever, it just gives
You're
me
gonna skip
nightmares.
it.
I cannot deal with that. Yeah, no, no way. Well, then moving on to COVID-19, which does not look as disgusting as the parasites. Um, can you tell us how we can manage the spread of COVID-19 whilst still maintaining our quality of everyday life, seeing as
Mm,
how the COVID-19 variants are developing so quickly and cases are increasing again, for
yeah,
example, here in Malaysia?
yeah, true. Uh, I think we've been doing the right thing, like emphasizing on basic hygiene practices, like frequently hand or wash your hands before you touch your face, before you eat, and then use hand sanitizer when it's not available, and then when you cough or sneeze, just cover your mouth as well, and then maybe some people still wear mask,
Yeah,
after era, but then some people have not like worn their mask anymore. But I think it's nice to just wear it whenever you feel like whenever you feel like actually. But then it's going to reduce the transmission rate if everyone's wearing that mask, and then just test yourself if you feel unwell, because just be suspicious about it if you suddenly whenever you want to talk you feel like coughing. Okay, just test yourself, and then don't go to places that have high transmission rates. But adapting to like our time right now, like when what if you have to work, then just minimize it. You don't have to like not go at all, just minimize it. Like if your work can be done remotely, do it, that's
right,
yeah. I think things like that are better. Plus be aware, like try to find out about the updates in cases, because that way you can be more aware as well.
right. So basically, most things that I think most people are already doing is pretty good enough.
Yeah, it's pretty good enough.
And it's just keeping in mind that, oh, COVID is still out there. If I am going out, if I'm in a plane, for example, traveling, there's going to be a lot of people in one enclosed space. And
True.
I guess for you, flying back to Indonesia would be 2 hours. When I was in Australia, flying back to Malaysia would be 8 hours. So we are in the same enclosed space for quite some time. And it's just
Yeah.
keeping in mind that, hey, maybe you could wear masks to, protect ourselves and other people.
Yeah, that's nice, because sometimes even if you don't feel sick, maybe you carry the virus. So what if there's someone vulnerable nearby and maybe beside you, sitting beside you? So
Right.
yeah, maybe it will be safer for them as well if you wear a mask,
Yeah. And then talking about that, they refer to people who don't display symptoms as asymptomatic, right?
Asymptomatic cases. Sometimes it's because their immune systems got rid of it, but the virus maybe is still like hanging there, kind
Oh,
of.
right. Just hanging out.
Yeah, it's just hang out. It hasn't like move out of your body totally completely yet. Like maybe you can still infect someone even though you feel like, oh, wait, I don't feel, anything,
So what hurts us has kind of been neutralized by our body's immune system, but the
Yeah,
fact that the virus is still there, if we maybe just cough or sneeze, it can be transferred to other people.
yeah. It's
Right.
like later part of your, if you got COVID, at the later days, I think before you test negative, maybe you have not like, maybe your symptoms are gone already for a few days before you
Ah,
can,
okay.
yeah. But it's safer to just go out once you test negative, not when you have no symptoms anymore, because you can still
Right.
infect.
Well, because negative means no virus at all in my body.
Not until the minimum detection limit.
Okay.
So safe for it to go out, but not don't look at the symptoms. For example, like
Right.
you don't have symptoms anymore, but you still test positive. Don't go. The fire is still there.
Oh, sorry. I meant if when you test negative, that means it's like no virus at all.
Not at all, but it's below the detection limit. Yeah, I heard you correctly.
Oh, it's not enough for the test to show that hey, you have COVID, right?
That means it's already so low. Shouldn't infect as bad as like the
The
if
higher
you
levels.
yeah.
Hmm. Well, I think some people have decided to use supplements to try and fight COVID, right? And I think nowadays, just my opinion, it's I feel like supplements are now this next big thing where everyone's like when you wake up you have to take your vitamin D tablets, you have to take your multivitamins, you have to take your fish oil, cod liver oil. Everything is based around supplements, supplements, supplements. The new way of taking care of yourself is, oh, just take this supplement that I've been using. What are your
Okay.
thoughts on the effectiveness of supplements? And
Okay.
yeah, let's start with that first.
Okay. Honestly, um it's first of all, the mindset is nice. They want to take care of themselves, which I think everyone has to do it as well, especially if it gets more hectic. You don't really get to drink supplements as well. So the thought is nice. Supplements are sometimes effective and sometimes not in some people, sometimes just placebo effect. Why? So basically, um unlike drugs, supplements are considered food in the
Food.
safe category. Yeah. So if they can also like put any kind of claims that may or may not be based on this official studies, not funded by them, so by themselves. So it is possible that they put claims maybe over exaggerated or anything, but then it doesn't really get tested as much as drugs before they get the regulatory pass, because it falls under the food, and you don't test food that much, right? Like, and not as much as drugs, like the toxicity to human body. So basically, they supplements don't you don't have to. This falls under nutraceuticals. You can consume them. I mean, it may be good for you, more benefits than risk, but if it doesn't have any effect, you cannot get mad at the company
Right.
because they don't have to be tested as strictly as drugs. So it's still like positive or neutral. That's it. Thing.
So different laws apply to drugs and to supplements because supplements are categorized as food. They don't have to go through the vigorous testing that drugs have to, right? Like, big sample sizes. I'm guessing, many, many, many processes or times of testing for drugs, whereas
Not
for supplements, not so much.
Yeah, not so much. Not all. Maybe even if they test, it doesn't have to prove to be effective. It can
Oh
just be
wow.
like a little additional benefit in like one or two people, and it can be released already. Why? Because for drugs it has to be effective, or if you're releasing new drugs it has to be more effective than the previous one, or like maybe less effective, but maybe the previous one need to be injected, so this one you can just take it orally, then you can do it. But for supplements it's not as the regulations are not as tight. You can just, if it produces like a little positive effect, you can release it. It's like food. It's not that tight. But
Right.
yeah.
So would you say that supplements are effective? Okay. Would you say that supplements are an effective way to prevent diseases?
Mm, if it works on you, it may boost your immune system. And when your immune system is great, like maybe you're stressed out, you take vitamins, that's nice. You can take micronutrients, it's needed by our body because we cannot produce it. But if it doesn't work on you, I mean, don't expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, it might not be effective for some people. It's different for everyone. But if it works for you, for your immune system, then it can indirectly help you prevent diseases,
Right.
prevent it.
So it's more just to strengthen our bodies. It's not like we should take it religiously, nonstop, hoping that we're gonna be, we're gonna live till we're 150 years old.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, because I genuinely know people who it's like every day take your vitamins, take your vitamins, take your supplements. This is fish oil, this is cod liver oil, this is, I don't know, shark oil, I don't know, like
Yeah,
they
there
have
are
all kinds of oils, right?
a lot of studies are proving their benefits, but a lot of studies are also disapproving their benefits. So it's kind of in the middle. There are supporting and disproving evidence of both, even like their effects to like other diseases like cancers, like can it prevent or can it produce anything. So sometimes it's not like you can't really trust supplements as much as you trust drugs, because um one is like you get what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
And
But
then
then it
sorry,
helps
go
to
ahead.
be taking care of your health. I think it should be nice for them as well.
Mm,
Has effects.
yeah. And I mean, going back to what you said, when one is tested all the time and the other not so much, I think we could trust more on the one that's getting regular testing, right?
Yeah, because the other one, and it's not like not really about like how do I say it? Like all the time testing. It's more like even if it's not a new something better than the previous one, it can still be released. If it's not better than the previous ones, it can still be released.
Oh wow, okay.
It's
So
really it
it
really depends on the people taking them.
right. So it does not have to be super effective, or it does not have to be better than the old vitamins or whatever for
Yeah.
them to sell the product to everyday people.
Mm.
Wow, okay. Yeah, because I've heard a lot of people say that, hey, maybe don't take 10 vitamin C tablets every day. Maybe you don't need vitamin A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. I don't know. Right? And it's just like, well, if you do have a deficiency, when I was growing up, I had a vitamin D deficiency. So we took tablets once every 2 weeks.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, they were like 50,000
Are you?
IU or
Yeah.
something like that. Like the dosage was quite high, so we took them once every 2 weeks. But
Mm-mm.
then I'm not exactly taking every other vitamin just because I want to take vitamins.
Okay. If you're lacking in vitamin D, usually after taking either 50,000 every 2 weeks or 10,000 every few days, you can, it might, and the level of raw vitamin D in your blood might rise after, I think, 2 months or 3 months. And you get regular testing again, and then maybe it will rise after because the effect is not as, fast.
Oh,
For Yeah, but if you're lacking vitamin D, you don't necessarily have to like must take other vitamins for it to work. It's still okay to take the vitamin D itself,
yeah.
especially in such high concentrations. I think it's
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, okay. Thank you so much for clearing the doubt about supplements. I think, again, as I said, a lot of people nowadays, they have this, it's kind of like this new thing to take supplements. And
yeah.
everyone's super crazy about it. Oh, are you taking this? If you take this, you have to take it with this oil or this. It's all
No,
like combining, and everyone's just taking a lot of them every single day.
it could be fine. Depends on their tolerance, but be careful because anything's like too much is not good. Especially because vitamins are micronutrients, you need it. But if it's too much, for example, your urine color change already, but then you still like take the same thing like a lot of it, it might, I would say like based on personal experience and like others' experience, when you're not taking it, it's okay if you're taking it, but when you're not taking it, your body will feel, or you might be weaker, because
Oh
it's used
wow.
to vitamins. You need it, but not in such high amounts actually, because you can still withstand. your immune system is still there, it's still strong, but then too much might cause toxicity, although it's like getting rid our body's getting rid of the extra ones. But yeah, I think you
And
get the
it's
point.
unnecessary, so why use it excessively, right?
If you can already see the color change in your urine, that means your body's already getting rid of the excess vitamins as well. So maybe wait for 2 days until you take it again. I think that will be much better for people. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, then let's go back to, you know, you're not doing your master's. Can you talk to me about your career aspirations? Is it heavily rooted in medical bioscience, or are you planning to explore further within the field, or are you planning to do something completely different?
Mm. So I'm still passionate as I was a few years ago. So um I'm still going to work within this field. Maybe in pharmaceutical companies, or maybe you could find me in hospitals few years later. So either those two area. But then I am if I'm working in companies, I knew I'm going to have to combine the knowledge not only in this field but also in other fields as well. For example, I'm also studying the uh, digital marketing. Maybe you could like help them sell the products.
Oh wow.
Or maybe you can. That's what I did, but other people can also combine it with uh, I would say maybe some people actually study about accounting together with biotechnology. So there's like a certain combination that I think the companies need it.
Right.
So they want you to study a lot in a lot of cases, so they don't have to hire so much people. So you're like all in one package. I
Yeah,
think that.
like having a diverse skill set, right? Like you can market, but then you know about the drugs or the supplements. Well, going back to supplements, that they want you to sell.
Yeah, so you have to know what you're selling. So if you're going to work in pharmaceutical companies, at least know about the topic first. But then, not knowing only this would not help you advance as much as if you know the other, become the jack of all trades and
Yeah.
like be that person for the company. I think.
Yeah. And are you planning on staying in Malaysia, or, are you headed to somewhere else?
I'm open to opportunities, but currently I'm planning to just go back to my home country first, because after I graduated, I wanted to. I've always wanted to just go back because um, they don't really hire international students in Malaysia, in my
Right.
opinion. But in my home country, those who graduated abroad are valued higher. They kind of pay you more.
Right. Okay.
Disagree. So I feel like it's more beneficial. So it depends on the um, working opportunities.
Yeah.
I'll see you later. No one
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah. And get that money. You deserve it. Um. Yeah. So, well. Speaking about jobs, and of course, I do agree that international students will find it quite hard to find jobs here in Malaysia. Because to be honest, I think Malaysians themselves are finding it hard to get jobs in Malaysia. You know,
Maybe before.
yeah, it's tough. So well then, can you talk to me about what is the process, or what are the processes for biomedical science students to get employed?
It depends on the field. Not the easiest, but most graduates go for clinical research associate roles
Okay.
because it pays a little bit higher than medical laboratory scientist and medical laboratory technician in hospitals and labs. And then I personally think the career pathway for care as clinical research associate is much wider in scale. And with the higher starting salary, probably around 3,000 per month, um, or 3.5. They usually get work in pharmaceutical companies as well, not hospitals. The difference could be in the other than pay. It can also differ in the working hours because hospitals are open 24/7, so the staffs might work Monday to Saturday. Meanwhile, in companies, probably Monday to Friday, 9 to 5.
Right. Okay.
So that's the difference. And sometimes if they even if they require you to work after hours for like patients that require um, drugs at like certain hours, sometimes it goes through the night. It still, I think the prospects much better to be in as CRA, but it will be more monotonous and like safe zone if you go to medical laboratory scientist, because it's like you know less challenges in a hospital because everything's the same every day. Meanwhile, in
Right.
company, you have like new goals, new goals, new goals. Like do this, and maybe more problems might arise as well. So
Right. Because is it because in a company you're trying to help them sell the product with research?
either the product or you how to like inject this product to test whether a product can go to market. Like you become the clinicals research, the clinical trial stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to like test the drug, and then you take care of like if their vitals are stable, take notes of their reactions, like
Oh
adverse,
wow.
etc. So it's like different kind of, you work,
Yep.
but get the knowledge from medical bioscience. I
Right.
think
And
that's the
I
most
that's
way.
the most common, right? Mm. And I've heard some students go back into academia.
Oh yeah, they could pursue masters or PhD as well.
No, but I mean like they become professors or kind of lecturers themselves, or they do research within universities.
Yeah, it's possible because honestly, if you have like usually those people are the ones with really high grades, and usually they are accepted with, probably they could get scholarship as PhD. And when you're a PhD student, you get salary by teaching the undergrad students as demo in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a really good career pathway as well, I think.
Oh wow. Yeah. So well, we talked about quite a lot. And I can tell you're a very busy person. I think at the start of the podcast or even before we started recording, we were talking about how do you actually manage to balance. You have so much studying going on. You have your masters now. How do you balance your studies, work, and even your extracurriculars?
Okay, so basically, work, I only do it during my holidays, especially the adapting, the adapting era. But then, if you're used to it already, you might extend your internship across your semester, right? So basically, you just divide your time, block your time of the day. So, like 2 hours for work, 2 hours for study, 2 hours for club. And sometimes this helps more than when I was in my first semester, because maybe I was just settling in. In my first semester, I no longer have weekends. Like, oh my God. But
Yeah.
then time management wasn't an easy fit for me either. And you just go straight 12 weeks, take a breather for 1 week, then final exams come.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but then you started to like lack sleep, and there's something you have to fix. So you have to start to arrange your priorities first, and then structure your day effectively. And whenever you want to do something, I usually ask myself like, what's the purpose of this thing? For example, I want to go do like let's say like schedule, but I already scheduled my day that day, and I'm trying to schedule the next day, but I have another thing to do. Then, like, what's the purpose of this? You know,
Right.
so do only the things with clear purpose. Then if you have to sacrifice additional reading for 2 hours of sleep, 2 hours extra sleep, for me to do it, it's worth it.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out which one are your priorities, which one can be skipped for the sake of your mental health. That's so important, because trying to fit in everything won't be, as effective. And sometimes when I'm bored with lab reports, instead of going straight to lectures, I just go to do the club's work first.
Right.
By the time I finish the club and any issues raised within the club, and afterward I might have the mood again to just, okay, I'm just gonna switch modes back to academia and do my lectures. And I think it's more effective to switch instead of just doing your taking longer because you're bored. Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't do it, but you cannot switch to club work, so you just stay like working
Yeah.
inefficiently. So switch mode, structure your day, make blocks, arrange your priorities. I think that's
Right. You're really helping me out here because I think for me, I really run on motivation. So I feel like I need to run on discipline more so than motivation because that
mm,
keeps my consistency.
yes.
Whereas now it's like, okay, I want to make a new song, right? Because I make music as well, so I want to make a song.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll spend like 10 hours or just spend like 4 to 6 hours just working on that song, and then I'll neglect my other parts of life. I won't go out. I won't work on my studies, which I really should because my GPA is falling. But to hear that you can block your time and schedule and stick to the schedule, but when you feel like, oh, I'm really running out of juices, I'm really struggling to stay focused, why don't I switch my attention or switch modes, like you said, to something else? So I
Yeah,
think
that's it.
that is very, very helpful. Um, yeah, and then one thing I do want to talk to you about as well is, so there's this thing called the wheel of life, and it's this chart that shows us different aspects of our life, right? It can be work, it can be social, it can be relationships, hobbies, physical health, whatever it is.
Okay.
And we use this wheel to measure and assess, how well we're doing in each aspect. For example, maybe last year I did a lot on work, so maybe I'll give it a higher grade. But then I neglected my time spent with friends. So then I'm like, okay, well, the wheel does not really look circular. It does not look even. If you know, yeah, exactly. It's more like a triangle, maybe, right? So then we know, okay, this year to balance it out, I can do less of this. I can put more energy into, maybe spending time with my friends and family.
Yeah.
So if you can redesign your wheel of life for 2024 from 2023, what aspects of life would you put on the wheel? Is it work? Is it, maybe your physical health, mental health? What aspects would you put on that wheel?
Okay, I definitely agree with you because my 2023 seems like it's going to be a triangle as well with like more and studies. I think
Yeah.
I less attention really for my health, since I like sleep as well that day. But this year, I think from since the beginning, like at the end of 2023 until the beginning of 2024, right now, I feel like I've been like putting more energy to to create stronger bonds with my friends, like just hanging out with them because this is my last could probably be my last year in Malaysia, and then don't lack sleep, just focus on and, and maybe I could have like put less focus on academic and work from 2023 and put the energy to health and maybe personal development as well, because I noticed that if you lack sleep, all the other aspects in the wheel will be interfered as well.
Yeah, they become smaller and smaller. Yeah.
Because if you lack sleep, you might not get the energy to do your work well, academia well, or socialize well as well. You know,
Yeah, and you can't really be present with people.
Although it's like undeniably important, yeah, I think I'd like to take some time off my schedule for work and academia and just put it more on my health and personal development. Probably I could just like learn how to like um, maybe read books, listen to podcasts like this, and just to like manage stress and emotions.
Yeah, that's amazing. Um, yeah, and I agree. I'm really trying to do that as well. And one thing I'm doing this year is really opening myself up to meeting new people.
Mm,
Um, but then not stress so much about success because I think I've always been, well, since I started uni, I've been hyper ambitious and I have to be successful. I have to be successful. No one's telling me to be successful. I'm the only person telling myself to be successful. But here we are. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, actually taking time out from certain things that we've already been putting a lot of time and effort in and actually prioritizing rest, prioritizing um, things that are more enjoyable to us. Things might like hobbies, like socializing with friends, and actually getting sleep for sure.
actually getting sleep. It
Yeah,
might have like more positive effects to your academic and works as well.
yeah, because they're all linked. It's all interlinked. And I think if we can prioritize sleep, like you said, we will have more energy to focus on academia, to focus on if we are working jobs, but to also be more present around the people that we want to be around, right? Well, Meta, thank you so much for your time. I think we've really covered a lot of very, very interesting and very insightful topics. We started off with how did you start in university? Why did you choose medical bioscience? What drew you to Malaysia? And then we focused quite intensively on internship programs, on the concepts within medical bioscience. We covered human physiology, pathology, and ultimately we talked about how the both of us really need sleep, um, which is probably what I'll be doing after this podcast. But
Yes.
Meta, if there's anything you would like to add, please let us know.
Anything else I would like to add? Maybe some message to
Yeah.
other international students, probably. So yeah, like us, remember to take care of yourself and eat properly, eat proper food. Call your parents at least every few days. Create a stronger bond with your group of close friends and be there for each other because they're probably also away from their parents. So yeah, stay strong. If you can do this, it can be hard sometimes, but you're not alone. Know that it will pass by so fast and you're gonna miss this time. So don't regret. Okay. Thank you so
Perfect.
much. Amazing.
No, no, no worries at all. Thank you, Meta. Yeah, again, guys, if you are tuning into this podcast, I will drop Meta's socials. Do you want me to drop your socials down in the description?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. I will drop her socials down in the description if you are following and, if you're interested in doing medical bioscience as well. You can contact her if you have any questions. And I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I have talking to Meta. Thank you so much for your time. Um, yeah, and share this video if you guys liked it. Subscribe, all that. It's This has been the Pineapple Party podcast. Thank you for tuning in, and thank you again, Meta.
Yeah. Thank you, Jensen. Thank you, everyone.